Hey guys, so for this video, I am going to be doing the top 10 movies I've watched in 2022. So, these are my criteria is just movies that I got enjoyment out of and movies that I objectively know are good. So this year, it was not a good year for movies, I guess, that I just watched in 2022. Because I watched so many terrible movies that it was really just trying to find the ones I got any enjoyment out of that weren't complete crap or just, okay for me, that didn't really get me. So let's get started. So at number 10 is One Piece Film Red. This is the one I had not been planning to watch this year. I just saw it in theaters. I've never seen an anime in theaters, and so I thought, hey, what the hell? I'll go and see what what kind of experience this was. This was dubbed, except for the singing parts, which were sung in Japanese and dubbed or subbed, which I was fine with. I had never saw or read One Piece. My brother, I think, probably does. He's more into like anime than me, at least watching it. At first, I felt like the story was kind of slow because I had nobody. I never watched anything of any of the characters, so it was very slow going for me. But once we got going, once we got cooking, I started to get more into it. It's pretty much the film was about this singer who decides she wants to use her music to brainwash all of humanity to, I guess, make them happy, essentially. And so the good guys realize that this would ultimately kill everyone. And so they try to convince the girl to stop what she's doing. And there's this whole crazy ending. I'm not going to go into it because it just would be so long. But we got a few musical numbers. I think the singer was great. Especially, I think it was Tot Musica. I think that was the name of the song. And she shredded it. She was good. So that was enjoyable. I will admit, with the story, I did tear up at parts, and I did start liking the characters, despite the fact I've never watched any of the show before that. I even started liking the villains as well, and so it was an experience. But because I've just had much experience with that show, I guess it wasn't as, I wouldn't say enjoyable, it just wasn't as impactful for me because I wasn't a fan of it. So that's why I said number 10. Hoop Dreams. This is one of the ones, 1001 movies to watch before you die. It was a documentary about two boys who get, their prospects for becoming good basketball players, and so we kind of follow their lives and just two different, the environments that they grew up in, which were pretty similar, but then also how they both kind of branched off, and how I say education kind of impacted their abilities, and their environment impacted their prospects of becoming good basketball players. And it was just an interesting documentary. And I'm not as into basketball, but still, when it comes to sports, I do find them more interesting when it comes to documentaries than most anything else. So I thought it was interesting. So there's another documentary, I guess. I watched it, was a UN sex abuse scandal on PBS, and I actually really enjoyed it in the sense it was very informational, but still difficult to watch. It was about the abuse of UN peacekeepers against children in the countries that they were sent to. This apparently was so rampant that it was well known, I guess, but apparently the UN couldn't do anything, I guess, because they had no like jurisdiction over the peacekeeper. It all depended on the country punishing them, and even though there was evidence of abuse, nothing, rarely anything ever got done. I think in the documentary only one guy ended up suffering any consequences for it. I think he actually went to prison, and then they went and interviewed him, and he acknowledged that he knew what he was doing is wrong, and it just pissed me off so much. They interviewed the children who were abused, and it was so sad because I'm not sure. Most of them decided not to show their faces, and it was just so traumatizing for them. That talked about how they got pregnant from the UN peacekeepers, pretty much used them. They tried to convince these girls that they would take care of them, and then they end up just abandoning them, and then left them with kids for them to take care of. And it's just so heartbreaking and frustrating and irritating, and it's good for information, but it also pisses you off. So the next one was The Woman King. So going into this one, I thought it was going to be like very much more action oriented, action heavy. It turned out to be a lot more emotional, and so that was, I guess, a nice change. So it follows, of course, it shows you in the trailer, female, or this tribe, kingdom, whatever you want to call it. They have women who fight for the king, because apparently in their tradition, women are equal to men, and so they kind of get, I guess, equal respect. But as we see in this movie, a lot of them suffered trauma. More specifically, sexual assault. Multiple, characters tell their story about that, and one of them ends up focusing on, the main leader of this army of women, and I guess spoilers, just in case you haven't seen it or watched it, but because it kind of impacted my, I guess, enjoyment of it, I'll just go ahead and tell you what happens. So the leader is a woman, and she is very much gruff and tough and all this, but as we find out, she had been raped as, I would say, I won't say she's a girl, or I don't know what age she was, but she was raped. She ended up getting pregnant. She essentially convinced her friend to give away the child to these missionaries, who ends up in an orphanage. And then there was this girl who was adopted by this family. They try to sell her off into marriage. She refuses, and so they come and throw her to this army of women to, I guess he her father gave her to the king, because she would not marry to some random abusive man. Turns out this girl is the daughter that this leader had given up. So we kind of get them having to deal with that, which it was very emotional, because of course Viola Davis plays the leader who had to give up her daughter, and I thought the kid was good too. The actress who played her daughter was very good. the other one, Latasha, is that her name? She plays in Captain Marvel. I can't remember. I think that was her name, or her real name. She was good in it. She was like more sarcastic and funny, and so the fighting was good. Um, it was. I guess the fight scenes were more sparse, but they, you know, more than made up for him with the quality, I guess, of the fight scenes, and I like the acting in it as well. So try not to get too much into that, but yep, that was The Woman King. So Violet Night is the next one. So I like this because it was a fresh take on a Christmas movie. Most of the time it's so cheery and all that, but this was pretty much Home Alone meet Die Hard, and so I got great enjoyment out of that. We essentially get a Viking Santa because that's what I'm assuming they're trying to, imply from these scenes that he was at one time a Viking, who was very violent, and then he eventually doesn't want to do that anymore, and so he starts giving instead of taking, and it's very much implied that he doesn't know how it happened. So I think that maybe, this. When he started giving, he got these powers from something that, gave him the ability to help as many people, as many children as he could. So I like the actor who played Santa. He is very good. And even all the other characters I found are fun. Even the villains and the family, despite the fact they were assholes, I still found enjoyable. And so it was a all around very enjoyable movie. One of the ones I'll continue to watch every year just because I find it fun. Okay, number 5 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. One of the more better quality movies, I think, but it has a complex story about forgiveness and appreciating the things that you have. And so I appreciated that, and it was batshit insane. Oh man, once again, thank God I didn't take my mom to see that like I was thinking about. I took my brother though, which he loves, he's pretty much up for anything. So it was a blast watching it with him, and the other people in the theater were having a blast as well. So it was overall a very enjoyable experience. I've only seen it once, so there are probably stuff I missed because it takes me a few viewings to fully get the impact of the movie, what they were trying to get across, especially when it comes to movies that are more deeper and, philosophical. So, still, probably why it's lower on my list. A few more viewings, I'm sure, probably put it higher, but at the moment. So number 4, because I tend to be a horror movie fan, so automatically tend to really get more from horror movies. I have Terrifier 2. The story, it might not be as quality, I guess. It follows this girl whose father has died. Her and her brother are having trouble with their mother. They're just having family trouble. And her and her brother start seeing this creepy motherfucking clown. And obviously they know it's Art. He's believed to have killed these kids. And the mother starts thinking they're crazy. Turns out that they in fact are seeing Art the Clown, or at least that's how I view it. And then Art goes after the kid, the brother, which makes me think that maybe Art has connected to her father because he was the one who was drawing him. So I'm wondering if Art was a manifestation of her father's, or if he was in fact her father. Anyways, he kidnaps her brother, and so she has to go after him, and she's dressed as this I don't know what you call it, an artwork. She's dressed as something her father drew, I'll just say that. And she has this knife that her father left her, and she goes and essentially kills Art, for the moment at least. We're supposed to get sequels, so we'll see how long that lasts. So, anyways, I just overall, Art was so fucking fun to me. He was like terrifying, but also hysterical. And I just got so much enjoyment out of him that it made it one of my favorite movies of this year. So yeah, so that was Terrifier 2. So number 3, it was The Northman. I overall thought it was a very well made movie. I loved that it went to Northern mythology. Also kind of went into like the inspiration for Hamlet. So get this like story about this kid whose father was killed by his uncle, and so he has to avenge his father and stuff like that. And I love the visuals. I loved the more like primitive nature of this movie because it very much focused on like, you know, the what are they called? Berserkers. I believe that's what they were called. The men who went into battle and pretty much acted like animals, which we got in this movie. I think the actor Alec, I don't remember his last name, but I thought he was very good, especially when he didn't really speak as much, but he used his body language to really act, which I enjoyed. At the time, I enjoyed the soundtrack, and of course I enjoyed the Valkyrie, that the more like, I guess the more accurate interpretation of Valkyrie, because they weren't necessarily beautiful women, so I did like the Northman. So my second one, the one I just saw recently, The 1,000 Years of Longing. I enjoyed that it was a story about a djinn, because I do like more like mythology, I guess, when it comes to different cultures. I think this might be mythology of the Middle East, djinn, but I enjoyed it. I love the main character, Tilda Swinton's character. I think she was supposed to be autistic. One of her lines was her brain was wired differently. So I'm wondering if that was just implied that she was like autistic and just had trouble interacting with the real world, or just with neurotypical, is that what they call it, people? But I just overall enjoyed her story. I kind of felt it was about like love, and you know, very philosophical discussions about, you know, I guess human nature. I have to watch it again because I've only seen it once, so I think it's going to be fun to rewatch it. So. And number 1, and don't hate me for it, but it's just because it was just so like enjoyable for me. It's Avatar: The Way of Water, and thing that really I think got me with this movie was the characters and the relationships between the characters. They just grabbed onto me and would not let go. I love all the characters, even the guy, the Miles. I can't remember his last name. The bad guy. Even he was kind of getting me a little bit because of his, relationship with Spider. It was kind of obvious throughout the movie that he did care about Spider. Because he kept, he was having like moments where he's just interacting with Spider positively, and it was just so heartfelt, I guess. And then at the end of the movie, when he tries to make it seem like he doesn't give a shit about him, but then when it gets down to it, he can't let him be killed. And so, even him, this character, the movie was making me feel something for. And of course, I loved all the other characters, and the relationships with each other. So, I love the way that they showed just how each, like, tribe of Na'vi adapted to their environment. So, for example, the reef people, it showed how they were able to adapt to living in the water. So we get, they have, like, broader, I guess, stronger arms, I guess, because they have to use it to propel themselves through the water. They've developed fins on their arms, and also their tails are more fin-like. So just the way they move in the water was just beautiful and amazing. And something I didn't catch in the movie, but saw it on YouTube. Apparently, they also have a third eyelid, which is common with, especially like crocodiles. They have a third eyelid to protect their eyes, which I thought was so fucking cool that they put that in the movie. And they were able to communicate using a sign language, which I did not know this time either, but apparently a Black Death man created the sign language that they used in the movie, which I thought was so cool. And I just the amount of time and effort and creativity that went into this movie, because I've seen a lot of went on behind the scenes about how the actors all had to learn how to swim, and like Kate Winslet, she ended up being able to learn how to hold her breath for like 7 minutes underwater, which was so fucking cool. Just everything about this movie was so cool to me. And I'm definitely excited for future movies, because apparently James Cameron said that they're going to, in the third movie, explore fire people, Na'vi, that I'm assuming probably have evolved to live in deserts or live more near volcanoes. So I'm excited for that as well. So don't hate me, but I'm sure some of you won't think it's that good, but I just took so much enjoyment out of it that it put it at the top of my list. And it was the most recent I saw, so some of the older ones I might have to watch again. I'll probably might enjoy them more, but it is what it is at the moment. So yeah, that was my top 10 movies I've watched in 2022. So if you guys like this video, give it a like, subscribe to get notifications for all the videos I'll be doing. You guys have a nice night, stay safe out there, and talk to you later. Bye.